Hello everyone, I'm the Shinigami,
And I'm the Quincy, and welcome back to our channel.
and today we are reviewing Fairy Tail Chapter 335.
The Time of Life. And guys, this should take about a minute. Alright?
So, in this chapter of Fairy Tail, there was a few key points. I mean, it was mostly fighting, but we get to see around the battlefield. So, Quincy, do you want to do the key points?
First, I'd like to go through the first couple panels with you guys, real quick. Which I was really shocked about. Before I get to the key points. Just the first couple panels of the chapter, maybe the first 2 pages, we see death. Alright? And I'm like, oh, hero. You stepped it up a little bit this week. Like, we see Bacchus die, and then we see Romeo's dad die, and Jet's holding Joy, saying Joy's not breathing. I'm like, oh, hero. Hero. I applaud you. You're killing people. You killed Bacchus. Come on, like, yeah. But yeah, just a few deaths. Just remember that, guys. He has the balls to kill them, but does he have the balls to keep them like that? Alright, we'll get to the key points now. The first key point would be, the deaths, pretty much. The second key point would be Ultir and her past. The third key point would be after she does her crazy spell. And what would the last key point be? Yeah, so I guess just 3 key points. Or the ending.
Okay. So, first key point. What was it again? I'm blanking.
The deaths.
The deaths, yeah. So, like the Quincy said earlier, I was totally just baffled to see all this death and stuff. I was like, that person died, and that person died, and they're dying. What is happening here? Mashima, you're keeping up with the pace of last week's chapter. And, for that brief minute that I saw all of the deaths, I was pretty happy. Only for a minute. But it was a good part. What'd you think?
Well, I liked it. He took that step, and I was like, oh, okay. You're killing people off. That's good. But I'm gonna say this before you guys get a chance to. There quite possibly could have been a possibility that the end of last week's chapter and the beginning part of this week's chapter was just a look into the future, and that Ultir was actually doing this magic, like at the end of last week's chapter. If it's hard to follow what I'm saying right now, I'm sorry, I'm tired, but the end of last week's chapter and the beginning of this week's chapter could have just been a huge vision, pretty much. Like, none of it actually happened. It was just a vision of what was to come. But if it wasn't that case, then, Hiro Mashima, I applaud you, because you killed him. You actually gave us blood, and thank you.
I was just looking back through it, and the last scenes of the chapter are just everybody fighting back now. It's the counterattack. Gagio and Cobra and Sting and Rogue, and everybody's fighting back now. But yeah. So, I guess we move on to the next key point, don't we?
Yeah.
Which, that would be her looking back on everything, sort of reflecting. And then a flashback to her early life. It was nice. We got some tiny bit of backstory. Of course, this may have happened somewhere earlier in the manga and anime. I just haven't gotten there yet.
It didn't.
Okay, well, a little bit of backstory. um, but at this point, what the subject matter that she was talking about, this is where we start to realize some things, and we're like, oh, great. But it was still good in a way. What do you think?
Well, it was nice. It was a really good section for Ultir because when we first meet Ultir in the manga slash anime, she's a complete witch. Like she's evil. She's you guys know, you guys seen it, you guys watched it, and here she's pretty much she wants to repent for everything that she's done, which is good for a character like her. Like she wants to give back what what some people can't give back, and that's the gift of life. You can't give someone back the gift of life unless you're God or you have the power to control that. Like Orihime, she has the power to control that. That's a rule in fairy. I mean, that's a rule in Bleach. She has the power to control that. In Fairy Tail, we haven't really seen a character who's able to give back life. So what it shows here is that she's willing to go to that extent to give back life. And again, like Utir, thank you. I think you were the best part of the chapter this week because she says like thank you, Gray. She thanks Gray for saving her, and then we go back into a flashback, and that brings us to the next key point. Wait, should we talk about the flashback? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just like really hyper from the cookies. Sorry for talking so much. I'm sorry for cutting you off too. I'm sleepy and hyper. It's a bad combo. But the flashback, we see young Ultir, who looks a lot like Wendy Marble, studying in I guess the Grimoire Heart Library on their ship, and she's pretty much looking for a certain spell. And Master Hades walk in, and she pretty much shows him the spell, and I think it was, but Ultir, she finds a magic going with their time arc magic called Lost Ages, and Hades is pretty much saying, you can't use that. I don't want you to use that, because if you use that, you're gonna die. So we get it. I mean, in other showing manga, we have people who can bring back people from life. I don't think we've seen it in One Piece yet. We haven't seen that in One Piece yet, right? Alright, so far we haven't seen that in One Piece, but in Naruto it's the Edo Tensei, and in Bleach it's Orihime. But this way the user dies. So that was actually really creative, Hiromashi. Unless you bring her back with the power of friendship, then no. But yeah, that's pretty much it for my discussion on the flashback.
I agree. I like this flashback too. Um, I'm really grateful to Mashima this week for a lot of things other than showing Mule a lot, fan service and whatnot. But he did do a good job, and I do make fun of him quite a bit in Fairy Tail. But he did do a good job with this, and the flashback was great, and it gave us more information, and we learned something, and just nice to see. And I'll add again, that ass. So yeah. Yeah, that's all I have to say. And part where she uses the spell? Will you talk about that?
Yes.
Do you want to go or do you want me to go?
I think you should go first.
Okay. So, she decides that her whole life she's been a witch, basically, and she wants to sort of make things right. And so, she uses this magic, which essentially sacrifices herself. And she says, "Take my take my life's worth, and give back the time that's lost, or whatever." So the spell looks like it burns her. It's hard to tell, but the way Mashima drew the lines, it kind of looks like she's burnt or something. I don't know. Or maybe she's just really, really old and really, really wrinkly. I don't know. But um, we see her fall to the ground, and it turns out that she only was able to get back 1 minute. So I liked it, and 1 minute kind of feels really short to me, even in manga and anime terms, because 1 minute is never 1 minute. It's always like 5 or 10 minutes. Because I guarantee you, if the anime comes back and then they animate that scene with everybody, it's going to be like 3 minutes long at least. So. But anyway, I did like the scene though. I really liked it for more than obvious reasons. Okay, what did you think?
No, I really enjoy this. I enjoyed this part as well. Again, like, there's a high chance she's going to die by bringing people back to life, or pretty much showing them what's going to happen. She's going to die. I mean, this is the first time Hiro Mashima has really given us the cost of using a great magic ever since Azuma in the Tenojima Island arc. She's gonna have a repercussion for using this spell, and it brings back that sense of there is logic in fairy tale. You can't get away with everything. If you use some kind of great magic, something's gonna happen to you. And Ultir pretty much brought that back, because I remember after Urza beat Minerva, people were saying Urza god modded, yet nothing happened to her. Ultir pretty much god modded here, but she's given her life for that god modding power. So again, Hiramashi is really stepping up his game. I mean, something happened to Ultir, and that's great. It sucks that she's dying, but it's great that he remembers that he needs logic in his series.
But anything else to add to that part?
No,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so.
And then the last key point, really, right? Which is, we see everything jump back a minute with the people, and then, they're doing their counterattack now. They saw what happened before, and now they're able to see it again, and then they just stop everything in its tracks and whatnot. So, they were saved. I like this part. I was making fun of it earlier, but I did like this part, because, although I was kind of sad that Gray didn't fully die, or at least wasn't severely injured. But, that probably won't happen for a long time. But at the same time, I'm kind of disappointed in the God modding power. But like you said, she gave her life, so it is kind of good at the same time. But not much else to add. This last part sort of leaves me excited for next week's chapter, as to seeing more fighting and stuff. What about you?
Well, again, I like this part of Fairy Tail. I like the ending. He's been doing good with endings the past 2 weeks, and his chapters are improving again. So we can only assume they're going to drop sometime soon. But that's another topic. This ending was really good. We get to see everyone and the effects of having deja vu. They're like we saw this. We know what's going to happen. We can dodge and counterattack. That was great. And then we get a little. I think we get a little side quote, not from anyone saying it, but it says soon after everyone forgot that, and they only saw it as deja vu, pretty much, or something like that. So it's a good thing we know that it's not permanent. Like, they won't fully remember it, but they'll have glimpses of it. Like, oh, we kind of knew that was happening. So that was actually really nice. And yes, I agree with the Shinigami. I am looking forward to next week's chapter, and I pray that Natsu is not in next week's chapter. Chapters have been better with Natsu not in the chapters, in my opinion.
One thing I want to add though is it's kind of sad though because she sacrificed herself, and you know how that minute becomes a memory. Now nobody's gonna know why she sacrificed herself. Be like, well, we didn't die, so it's not like she's trying to save us or anything. I mean, we had a momentary glimpse into the future.
Don't worry. I'm sure Natsu's gonna give a Nakama speech and then summon the flames of rebirth or something and bring Ultir back to life. Or Urza's gonna have some sort of armor that like can bring someone back to life or something like that.
So, should we move on to the basic fact, or not this week?
I think we should.
Okay. Badassness. What would you rate badassness for this chapter?
About a 6.
6? I would have to rate it about a 5 or 6, yeah. Attention level, how much attention were you paying?
About a 6.5.
Okay. I'd have to say I was about a 7. How satisfying was this chapter?
A 10. This
Wow.
chapter was a 10.
Wow.
Just because of the fact Hero Mashima understands logic.
Yeah. I would have to say about an 8 for me. I have to say about an 8. How interesting was the chapter?
About a 9. I mean, I predicted like something like this to happen, but for Hero Mashima to actually do it, it's great.
I'd have to say interesting wise it was probably about a 7. How comedic was the chapter? How funny was it?
It was 0. It wasn't any comedy. It was actually a really serious chapter of Fairy Tail.
Yeah. I have to say about 0. And he reused his old joke about Gray touching Juvia's butt.
Yeah.
So, fan service.
We got a lot of Ultir fan service in this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it, I mean, you get to see all four curves in this chapter.
We almost had a few nip slips. Animation. How well drawn was this chapter?
This chapter was actually pretty well drawn.
Yeah, it was.
The characters were really well drawn.
Yeah, they were. I have to say about a 7 or an 8. 7 or an 8. About you?
About the same.
And predictability.
This chapter is pretty predictable, so I really don't know what to give it. It was a good chapter. Pretty predictable, but it was a really good chapter. Very good. I always get confused on the predictability scale.
0 is unpredictable, and 10 is like extremely predictable.
About a 7.
For me, I'd have to say about a 4 because I didn't see the Ultier thing, and you know, just a few.
I didn't see her dying, but I saw her using something like the magic she used.
Yeah. So yeah, rating out of 5 stars.
I'm gonna give it a 3.
I'd have to give it about a 2.8 or a 3. Anything else to add or any announcements?
Remember logic. That's my only announcement.
Remember logic. Okay. Well, links are in the description. And yeah. I'm the Shinigami.
And I'm the Quincy.
And I'm signing off.
Adios, Otakus.
Jana.